Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. My name is Katja Keul and I'm Minister of State at the Federal Foreign Office. It is my honor to welcome you on behalf of the Federal Republic of Germany to the national statements. For more than 800 days, Ukraine has been at war. For more than 800 days, the international community has been witnessing atrocities of all kinds. Civilians being targeted, lives taken, and livelihoods destroyed. This year's Ukraine Recovery Conference here in Berlin is a strong signal of our shared effort to rebuild Ukraine in the face of Russia's war of aggression. As we gather here today, the time has come for our shared commitment to peace and stability to translate into tangible actions on the ground. Ahead of us lies the responsibility of supporting Ukraine as it defends itself against Russia, but also the immense task of reconstruction and building back better. A task which requires not only financial resources, but also unwavering dedication and solidarity. The goal of this conference is to help Ukraine create a favorable environment for businesses to attract more private sector investment. As we all know, the potential is huge. After all, Ukraine is committed to becoming a member of the European Union. We therefore would like to focus our efforts and discussions on the following four thematic dimensions. First, the business dimension, which aims to mobilize the private sector to enable reconstruction and economic growth in Ukraine. Strong participation of the private sector is imperative for this goal. Boosting confidence in the Ukraine business environment, showcasing successful stories, and signaling enduring political backing are vital for attracting investments from both local and international sources. Key areas to focus on include business opportunities in critical sectors of the Ukrainian economy, government support mechanisms, and global assistance in financial access and the shift towards the green and digital transformation. Second, the human dimension, to ensure social recovery and human capital for the future of Ukraine. It is crucial that everyone is involved in the recovery process. In order to fully tap the talents of each and every member of the civil society, especially women and young people, it is essential to create a conducive environment in Ukraine. Therefore, we need to promote quality education, healthcare, social services, and improve the infrastructure. Additionally, we need to step up demining activities and facilitate the reintegration of veterans, internally displaced persons, and returnees. Third, the local and regional dimension will focus on the recovery of municipalities and regions. Local and regional stakeholders have a crucial role to play in the reconstruction process. This conference will highlight the significance of local communities, including the allocation of financial resources. This involves sustainable urban development, housing, and local economic initiatives to foster livable and resilient communities. At the same time, it is imperative to address transparency and accountability, as they are fundamental to instilling trust among citizens. Fourth, the EU dimension, which encompasses our commitment to Ukraine's EU accession and related reforms to the country. The process of EU accession facilitates economic growth, ensures investment security, and promotes the recovery of a competitive economy. Moreover, it fosters stable political institutions, safeguards human rights, and the rule of law, and strengthens public service institutions. By showcasing achievements and crucial support mechanisms, the conference endeavors to instill trust in the reform process. Representing Germany, I would like to underscore that we consider it our utmost priority to maintain and expand our support towards Ukraine. We will stay a reliable partner. I would also like to take this opportunity to express my deepest gratitude to all nations and stakeholders participating in this conference for their support and commitment to our shared cause. Let us all remember that Ukraine is defending not only our shared values, but also our own security. Resilience to internal and external shocks caused by the war require resources. Your contributions, whether large or small, are vital building blocks for a brighter future for all affected by the war. Let us seize this opportunity to reaffirm our support and collective responsibility to ensure that no one is left behind, however long it takes. We all share the same goal: Ukraine's recovery and building back better. On this note, I look forward to your statements. Thank you very much. And I now give the floor to the first speaker, His Excellency, the Prime Minister of Bulgaria, Dimitar Glavchev.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, more than 2 years since the illegal full-scale aggression of the Russian Federation, the Ukraine and its people go through immense sufferings. There is a systematic attack with all possible means. Damage to Ukraine is between 500 million and 1 trillion US dollars. Every month this number grows by at least 10 billion US dollars. The war took the life of thousands of civilians and children. Hundreds of homes were destroyed, more than 200 schools and churches. It is difficult to judge what the damages are to the environment in the Ukraine and Black Sea. The aggressor destroys critical infrastructure in the Ukraine that leads to lack of access to electricity, clean water and telecommunication of the Ukrainian people. We should not stay indifferent to the victims of this barbarian aggression. According to the principles of the UN and international law, we have to support the Ukrainian people and Ukraine not only to fight back the aggressor, but also to look in the future to restore the country. The Parliament of Bulgaria decided on the 3rd of November 2022 to contribute to the process of reconstruction of the Ukraine. We are ready to support the energy security of Ukraine and establish more intensive relations. And in July 2023, we signed a bilateral memorandum of understanding with President Zelensky. In the area of natural gas, we can provide access to the Ukraine to alternative sources of natural gas through the territory of Bulgaria. On the 6th of June, in Sofia, we started a strategic project for a vertical gas corridor to diversify energy supplies and energy security, including for the Ukraine. There is a Bulgarian technical technical group for support to complete the Chmelnica nuclear power plant after the sale of the Bulgarian equipment of Belene. There are many companies and businesses in the area of energy that will help reconstruct power generation centers according to the standards of construction in the EU in the context of post-war reconstruction of Bulgaria. Bulgarian associations of businesses and construction can contribute and are ready to contribute to building roads, transport infrastructure, and housing. And transport infrastructure is damaged by the Russian attacks, and we have to integrate the Ukraine in the pan-European transport corridors, which will be beneficial to Ukraine and the EU. The damages on the environment should also be taken into account when reconstructing the Ukraine. Bulgaria gave specific aid when Pekhovka Dam was destroyed. Bulgaria was one of the 16 EU member states that provided aid after the 6th of June 2023. We have a signed memorandum in the area of protection of the environment where we stated the commitment of Bulgaria to help in sustainable water development, waste management, quality of the air, and protection of nature. Protection of cultural heritage is also a great challenge. Bulgarian experts can offer aid to restore and conserve the cultural monuments in the Ukraine. In the long term, the reconstruction of the Ukraine will require also efforts in the area of digital transition and green transition. Bulgaria can share our experience, which is very relevant for the economic context of Ukraine. Ladies and gentlemen, today at this very important forum, I can see that the partners of the Ukraine have not only the willingness but also the capacity to support the reconstruction of Ukraine caused by the from the damage caused by the aggressor. The EU has a powerful potential to support Ukraine, and it will continue as long as it needs to support Ukraine and its institutions, showing what the targets are of our aid. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Prime Minister, for your contribution. And I give the floor next to Her Excellency, the President of North Macedonia, Gordana Davkova.
Благодаря.
Thank you. The reconstruction of the Ukraine is a European imperative. Here we are in order to see what we have done so far, but also to have the next task set. The Russian military aggression was condemned. We gave political support and military support.
Иако веќе 23 години чекаме да станеме членка на Европската унија.
And we have waited for 23 years to become EU member. We are part of the Crimean platform, the declaration of Bucha.
Постојано се повикуваме на почитување на меѓународното право.
We continued with our consistent support for sovereign European Ukraine within its internationally recognized borders. Like all the other countries, Ukraine has the right of self-identification. After the Second World War, the Marshall Plan was, among other things, an expression of solidarity towards the devastated Europe. Today, a new kind of Marshall Plan is needed for the shattered Ukraine. Investment is necessary, not only in road and energy infrastructure, but also in human, educational, social, and normative infrastructure. The key questions are how to ensure a just recovery and reconstruction of Ukraine. And what does just recovery actually mean? In accordance with the principles of Lugano, it would be a reconstruction that would encompass the whole society, would be guided by the real needs of Ukraine, and would belong to the Ukrainian citizens. This cannot be achieved overnight. I know this. Therefore, we must not wait until this terrible war is over to plan and prepare for the recovery of Ukraine. Regarding the business dimension, our opportunities for specific activities and initiatives through direct investments are limited, considering the economic situation and the lack of regulation and budget for humanitarian and development aid. However, the possibility remains for the future and our new home and experience to share with Ukraine and entry of the Macedonian companies as subcontractors of projects that are financially covered by other donors. I will raise this issue with the new government and encourage the chambers of commerce to participate in partnerships for the recovery and reconstruction of Ukraine. As I said, in terms of the human dimension, reconstruction must not be reduced to the pre-war status quo, as it is an opportunity to do it much better and more sustainably. An investment in quality, education, health and social services is an investment in human capital and the perspective of young people. We know that real life takes place at local level, among citizens. In addition to rebuilding local communities, Macedonian cities have sent emergency aid and donations to their sister cities in Ukraine for the past 2 years. Finally, the European dimension is also very important. Post-war reconstruction must go hand in hand with the European reforms, with the rule of law and good governance, with social justice and inclusiveness. I wish Ukraine will be the member of the European Union faster than us, because we waited a lot. We cannot forget the good governance, social justice and inclusivity. We know that it is understood that the recovery of Ukraine is also a recovery of the European and world solidarity and empathy. The solidarity and empathy was never more than this. We cannot authoritarianism and despotism and totalitarianism, a new Caesarean understanding to dominate. We need to put end to dreams of big states. We will continue to support the Ukrainian citizens with the belief that together we will find each other, we will see each other in a bigger European family. We know that European Union is not finished symphony without Western Balkan countries. European Union is not a finished symphony without Ukraine as well. That's why we are here. That's why I'm convinced that with us and with Ukraine, European Union will get more in its weight, will be more important factor.
Thank you,
Thank you very
President,
much.
for your support. And I now give the floor to His Excellency, the Prime Minister of Finland, Petteri Orpo.
Thank you so much, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. First, I want to thank Germany, Chancellor Scholz, and Ukraine, President Zelensky, for organizing this conference. United in defense, united in recovery, stronger together. It's today's headline. It is unity why we are here today. We are standing united in response to the Russian aggression and united against the Russian breach of international law. We admire and respect the courage and resilience of Ukraine and Ukrainian people. We stand united with Ukraine. When I say this, I speak for the entire Finnish society. Finnish people, cities and companies are united with Ukrainian people, cities and companies. While Finland continues to support Ukraine militarily, we are also prepared to take responsibility in such key civilian areas as environment and education. Education is key to success of any modern society. Finland, based on its own experiences, is committed to rebuilding and modernizing education in Ukraine. We support Ukraine in the new Ukrainian school reform. We are also happy to join the newly formed and very promising Skills Alliance for Ukraine. Our serious concern is that millions of children's schooling is disrupted in Ukraine because there are no shelters in schools. Hundreds of schools buildings have been destroyed by Russia. This is something I really want to draw your attention to. Finland is ready to work with Ukraine in sharing our experiences and practices in the planning and construction of civil defense shelters. At the same time, there must be an important international effort in building shelters for Ukrainian schools and other critical infrastructure. Investing in shelters is investing into Ukraine's future generations. The moment last December, when we in European Council decided to open accession negotiations with Ukraine, was a remarkable sign of European unity. Ukraine's determination and strong will to reform has become clear. We know that Ukraine's future is going to be European. Thank you.
Thank you, Prime Minister. The next speaker is His Excellency, the Prime Minister of Montenegro, Milorcio Spacic.
Dear host, dear colleagues, it is my great pleasure on behalf of the government of Montenegro to take part in this important event. I would like to thank our host for the excellent organization and the possibility to reconfirm our strong commitment and readiness to assist Ukraine in the forthcoming demanding and challenging process of its recovery and reconstruction. We are gathered here today to emphasize the severity of the vortex of war taking place on European soil. This is the opportunity which we must use to reiterate that 2 years of Russian aggression against Ukraine as an independent and internationally recognized country cannot become new normal. Russia's aggression against our partner Ukraine is a reminder and warning of the importance of solidarity and joint action. This support underlines our unwavering belief in a world where force does not constitute law, where the principles of humanity, justice and international law prevail. Therefore, Montenegro remains, together with its international partners, determined to provide comprehensive support to Ukraine and its people. It is a pledge to protect the common values that bind us together, commitment to freedom, democracy, and human dignity. As we move forward, we must continue to champion those ideals, both within our borders and beyond, ensuring that future generations inherit a world that is just, peaceful, and prosperous. I'm confident that this two-day conference will integrate global support for the reconstruction of critical infrastructure facilities and the recovery of economic situation in Ukraine. I strongly believe that only by joint action we can and must provide the maximum effort so that Ukraine, as soon as possible, becomes a free and prosperous country. Dear colleagues, we have pointed this out several times, but let me reiterate that Montenegro maintains a crystal clear position in favor of international law and supporting all international platforms, mechanisms and initiatives that contribute to the maintenance of the independence, sovereignty and integrity of Ukraine. Montenegro is a true friend and staunch supporter of Ukraine and its European and Euro-Atlantic perspective. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Prime Minister, for your strong words. And I give the floor next to Ms. Ines Carpio, Director General for International Financing from Spain. Okay, is there anyone speaking on behalf of Spain? So please do so now. Okay, we go to the next speaker, and I give the floor to His Excellency, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Czech Republic, Jan Lipavsky.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, while we are meeting in this cozy conference room, Ukrainians are facing another day of barbarian Russian war. Vladimir Putin has decided to destroy Ukraine as an independent, free and sovereign state, and if we will not be able to stop him, our meeting next year might be very gloomy. Czechia has been among the strongest supporters of Ukraine since the very first hour of Russian full-scale invasion, including heavy weapons deliveries and current ammunition initiative. Our government envoy for the reconstruction of Ukraine has organized 3 large-scale reconstruction missions to Dnipro and Dnipropetrovsk region, as we have agreed with our Ukrainian colleagues that my country would be a partner for the reconstruction of this region. Moreover, our President was the first foreign leader who visited that region. Our efforts resulted in deliveries of medical equipment for local hospitals, mobile water treatment facilities, as well as energy generators. As a part of our humanitarian and development engagement in Ukraine, Czechia prioritized the frontline recovery efforts. This assistance is supposed to be short-term, immediately deployable and responsive to the most pressing local needs. Currently, the Czech assistance is focused mainly on projects related to energy production, water treatment and construction of primary health infrastructure, while are the areas that Ukraine has identified as being of top priorities. For example, the functioning of medical facilities in the vicinity of front lines is vital for the Ukraine war effort. Otherwise, it would have been necessary to undergo risky transportation of injured personnel to hospitals in the interior. Czechia has already supported projects designed to strengthen local primary healthcare capacities, such as modular hospitals. In order to quickly assess local needs, Czechia cooperates directly with individual Ukrainian municipalities. Therefore, I am pleased to inform that we are joining the Coalition for Sustainable Municipalities here at the URC 2024. Last but not least, let me say that we need to effectively protect our reconstruction initiatives, investments and projects from repeated attacks by the Russian army. Some of the infrastructure facilities like power plants or transformation stations, which were restored with our help, has been hit and destroyed again by Russian missiles and drones. For this reason, Ukraine urgently needs our military support, including missiles and air defense systems for the protection of both human lives and critical infrastructure. Let me conclude that sustainable and successful reconstruction of Ukraine is possible only when just and durable peace is ensured. Only then the Russian aggressive behavior, which is aimed at the destruction of independent Ukraine, could be stopped and held. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Minister. We move on to Liechtenstein, and I give the floor to Her Excellency Dominik Hasler, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Education and Sports.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank Germany and the Ukraine for convening the Ukraine Recovery Conference. To renew our continued and strong solidarity with Ukraine and its people, it is of utmost importance that we continue discussing the recovery process of Ukraine together. Despite the clear calls from the international community, especially through repeated resolutions adopted by the UN General Assembly with overwhelming majority, Russia continues to commit grave violations of human rights and international humanitarian law on a massive scale. Liechtenstein, together with its allies, has clearly condemned the aggression from the beginning. Also, we have autonomously implemented all restrictive measures of the EU in connection with the Russian aggression against Ukraine. Ensuring accountability for the most serious crimes under international law is of utmost importance and a key priority for Liechtenstein. This includes in particular accountability for the crime of aggression. The establishment of a register of damage at the Council of Europe has been a milestone towards compensation and accountability. Personally, in my previous capacity as President of the Council of Europe, Ministers of the Council of Europe Committee, I had the great honor to opening a register satellite office in Kiev, together with Secretary General of the Council of Europe on the 22nd of March this year. This builds a basis for the long-term reconstruction of Ukraine. The war damages in Ukraine are enormous. Hundreds of billions of US dollars will be needed over many years for full recovery of Ukraine. Under the principle of state responsibility, Russia has an obligation to compensate Ukraine for the damages it has caused. We are fully committed to contributing to the recovery and reconstruction of the country. In this regard, we have already supported humanitarian demining projects. Demining is indeed a key prerequisite for recovery of social and economic activities. A national working group is currently preparing a proposal to Parliament for the long-term engagement of Liechtenstein in reconstruction of Ukraine. We plan to submit the proposal to Parliament soon this year with the aim to get multi-year and additional funding of reconstruction activities. We fully welcome the focus areas defined by Germany at this conference, which include the business sector, the human dimension, as well as the local and regional dimension. We also reiterate that the recovery process must be guided by the UN 2030 agenda and must take place in accordance with international law, democratic principles, the rule of law, human rights, and good governance. Once again, we are convinced that all like-minded states must stand together and reinforce their support for Ukraine. Liechtenstein will do so. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Minister. We'll move on to the Republic of Korea, and I give the floor to Mrs. In-soon Kang, Second Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs. Please.
Thank you. I would like to begin by extending my appreciation to Germany, the first EU member state to host the Ukraine Recovery Conference. More than 2 years have passed since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Still, there are ongoing large-scale attacks on energy infrastructure and civilian facilities in these critical times. As a nation that knows only too well what it means to suffer as a result of military aggression, Korea has a profound sense of empathy with the Ukrainian people. In its pursuit of the aspiration to serve as a global pivotal state, which advances freedom, peace, and prosperity around the world, Korea has, in synergy with the international community, expressed its solidarity with Ukraine from the beginning of the war. In this regard, last year in July, President Yoon Suk-yeol visited Kyiv and announced the Ukraine Peace and Solidarity Initiative. This encompasses Korea's assistance for security, humanitarian aid, and post-war reconstruction. As follow measures to the initiative, the Korean government has pursued efforts to implement a comprehensive support program of a value of $2.5 billion to be spread out over several years. This includes $200 million of humanitarian assistance in 2024, 18 KOICA grant aid projects of a value of $100 million, a recent contribution of $100 million for financial support through the World Bank and EBRD, and $2.1 billion of concessional loans over the next 6 years. Earlier this year, Korea also joined the multi-agency donor coordination platform for Ukraine. Furthermore, we have appointed a special representative for reconstruction of Ukraine to enhance collective and coordinated support to help the Ukraine people. Korean companies are also committed to helping Ukraine shape a future defined by freedom and prosperity. Today, we have several Korean companies from the energy, logistics, and infrastructure sectors present at the conference which seek to be part of the Ukraine reconstruction process. Indeed, the Korean government has appointed Mr. Kain Lee, CEO of POSCO International Corporation, as a member of the MDCP Business Advisory Council, which is officially launched today. We believe that efficient public and private partnership is key for the effective recovery of Ukraine. There is no doubt that the Ukraine Recovery Conference is a truly timely platform for private partnership and engagement. Once again, I would like to reaffirm Korea's solidarity with Ukraine and heartfelt commitment to supporting the recovery and reconstruction process. We trust that through the sense of shared purpose and determination we all embrace, the vision we embrace for the future of Ukraine will indeed be fully realized. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vice Minister. And I now give the floor to Denmark, to His Excellency Dan Jørgensen, Minister for Development Cooperation and Minister for Global Climate Policy. Please.
Thank you. I want to start by thanking Germany for hosting this year's URC. It is crucial that our commitment and support to Ukraine does not lose momentum now. Denmark will continue to stand by our friends and partners in Ukraine for as long as necessary. One cannot speak about Danish engagement in Ukraine without mentioning the Denmark-Mykolaiv partnership, a fruitful partnership and trustworthy friendship. This is why I'm happy to announce the fourth reconstruction package under the Denmark-Mykolaiv partnership. Among other things, the package will support the people of Mykolaiv through vocational training and increased access to power and water. It's a contribution of more than 33.5 million euros. Now, Denmark has provided almost 635 million euros in civilian support for Ukraine. Engagement of the private sector is key for securing the future of Ukraine. And we, as governments, can do a lot to help this underway. Denmark provides a range of commercial financing instruments as part of our support to ensure private sector investments in Ukraine. One of these investments is the loan and guarantee scheme in Denmark's Export and Investment Fund. The scheme offers financial and guarantees of up to 100% covering the political and commercial risks through different financing institutions. The scheme can ensure that public and private Ukrainian buyers can secure loans from banks or cover Danish exporters' risks when exporting to Ukraine. Right now, IFO is finalizing loans and guarantees for 140 million euros in Ukraine. Through our loan and guarantee schemes, Danish companies are working on major investments in green energy supply in Ukraine, both beneficial now in times of war and in the future securing the green transition of Ukraine. Denmark has invested in Ukraine's private sector for decades via the Investment Fund for Developing Countries, one of the single largest investors in Ukraine among the European development finance institutions. The funding has ensured market expansion for several companies in Ukraine and created jobs, export revenues, and important tax income supporting the economy. With the Danish Ukraine Fund, we've engaged over 150 Danish companies. A key to this is risk capital backed by Danish Export and Investment Fund and the Investment Fund for Developing Countries. Private funds are also interested in contributing. However, these are only the first small steps towards a more transformative effort. We will need massive investments from international financial institutions and support for the Ukrainian banking and insurance sector. We have to be creative and find ways to address the challenges of investing, recovery, and security at the same time. Let me give you a very recent example of how Denmark tries to connect the three. We've launched an initiative to purchase military equipment from the Ukrainian defense industry through Ukrainian government. We assume the risk and secure the defense sector much needed capital to expand capacity. It is an investment in Ukrainian jobs, human capital, and Ukrainian security. So far, we've reserved 160 million euros to this initiative. This makes great sense compared to only donating from our own stocks. It is more sustainable and cost efficient, and it ensures quick delivery to the front line and contributes to the development of Ukrainian military technology and future deterrence. We hope that our fellow international donors, partners and friends, as well as the private sector, will follow suit and increase involvement with the Ukrainian defense industry. With this appeal, I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Minister. The next speaker is from France, and I ask Mr. Pierre Heilbronn, Special Envoy for Ukraine's Relief and Reconstruction, to take the floor. Please.
Thank you very much, Chair. Ladies and gentlemen, we highly welcome the firm level of commitment of Ukraine's allies for this new edition of the Ukraine Recovery Conference. As Russia increases the pressure on the Ukrainian front line and multiplies its provocations against our countries, the support to Ukraine is more important than ever. Europe's future, but also the respect of international law, are at stake in Ukraine. We therefore cannot let Ukraine to be defeated. That is why we need not only to continue our efforts, but step up our political, military, diplomatic, humanitarian, and economic support towards Ukraine. In this regard, France reaffirms its firm commitment to provide short and long-term support to Ukraine. France will provide 100 million euros in humanitarian help in 2024 in order to bring assistance to the most vulnerable populations through food assistance, IDP support, and other assistance programs on the ground. Additional measures are also needed to ease the pressure on the energy sector. In that perspective, France will make its first contribution to the Ukraine Energy Support Fund of the Energy Community, which has proven its effectiveness over time. On top of that, we have decided to allocate 60 million euros out of the 200 million euros private sector support fund, which was announced last Friday by the French President Emmanuel Macron at the occasion of the visit of President Zelensky in Paris, to be able to finance reconstruction solutions for the energy sector in 2024. Yet, emergency assistance has to be completed by medium to long-term backing of Ukraine's transformation. In this regard, we have decided to extend the mandate of our National Development Agency to Ukraine. In the coming months, AFD will start its first operations by financing recovery projects, particularly at the local level. Furthermore, among the multiple areas of cooperation between France and Ukraine, targeted support to the health sector is among our top priorities. 2 loan agreements for a total of 50 million euros were signed today in order to provide Ukraine with new mammography equipment and financial capacity to rebuild damaged hospitals. Oncology, mental health, and disabilities are the 3 areas defined by France to provide extensive assistance through supply, financing, and technical expertise. In that respect, we are proud to announce today the support of the creation of the new Superhumans Center in Odessa to heal the wounded of the war, while more than 40,000 Ukrainians have lost limbs. France's commitment is also expressed at the international and European level. As a member of the G7, France partakes in the global efforts to mobilize international donors. We will finalize in the coming weeks the provision of an additional €500 million of financial guarantees to IFIs present in Ukraine, EBRD, EIB, IFC, and this operation will help to trigger access to more financing capacity for the private sector in Ukraine. At the European level, France, which is the second largest contributor to the European budget, also supports Ukraine in its accession path. We therefore are calling for a rapid endorsement of the first intergovernmental conference on EU accessions to start the negotiations. Finally, we are joining the 4 thematic alliances launched during this conference by our German partners to guarantee that a set of priorities and values are made common to all donors to Ukraine. In conclusion, I would like to reaffirm France's commitment to Ukraine's recovery and its European ambitions. The journey will be challenging, but with unwavering support and solidarity, we will help Ukraine achieve its rightful place within the European community. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for the French support. And I now give the floor to His Excellency, the Prime Minister of Moldova, Dorin Riken.
Good afternoon. Ukraine is not alone, and today's conference is a clear sign that the international community is united in supporting Ukraine, its independence, sovereignty, and territorial integrity. We're stronger together, united in supporting Ukraine and in defending our values, united in our resolve to rebuild Ukraine and strengthen Europe. Moldova is doing its fair share. We are continuing to host 100,000 refugees that ran out of Ukraine when Russia invaded Ukraine. This is about 4% of the population of Moldova. We are building infrastructure to facilitate Ukrainians' logistical needs, including for the rebuilding support. This means bridges, roads and highways, railroads, multimodal drying ports, all for the need of Moldova, but also for the needs of Ukraine. We're also building electricity grids with a long-term view to integrate and to help Ukraine, particularly the southwestern part of Ukraine, to be interconnected with the European electricity grids. We're strongly committed to help Ukraine from now on, and we strongly believe that Europe will be strong, safe and prosperous when Ukraine is rebuilt. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prime Minister. I now ask the Prime Minister of Georgia, His Excellency Irakli Kobachitske, to take the floor.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I would like to thank Germany for hosting this important conference. As we gather here today to reiterate our unwavering solidarity with Ukraine in these challenging times and our commitment to its swift recovery, let me underscore that Georgia and Ukraine are interlinked by a centuries-long friendship and strong people-to-people ties. Georgia firmly supports Ukraine's independence, sovereignty and territorial integrity and stands in solidarity with the Ukrainian people. We understand that while we are united in our resolve to substantially assist Ukraine in its reconstruction, our resources may vary. This should inspire us to extend as much support as possible within our capacities. With this in mind, from the very start of the war, Georgia has demonstrated full solidarity with Ukraine through strong political and diplomatic steps, both bilaterally and on international platforms, as well as by offering substantial humanitarian assistance. Overall, Georgia has sponsored, joined and supported more than 600 resolutions, statements, joint statements and other initiatives adopted or proposed by international organizations and institutions in support of Ukraine. While Georgia has not introduced national sanctions against Russia following its military aggression against Ukraine, all relevant state agencies remain vigilant concerning sanctioned persons and goods. The Georgian government maintains close coordination with the European Union, Great Britain, the United States and other states exercising control over the enforcement of sanctions. At the same time, the government of Georgia has provided significant humanitarian aid to Ukraine and supported Ukrainian citizens currently residing in Georgia. To date, more than 1,000 tons of humanitarian cargo have been sent to Ukraine, and the support provided by the government of Georgia amounts to more than 35 million lari. Georgia continues to assist approximately 26,000 Ukrainians affected by the war who are currently living in Georgia. Since 2022, Ukrainians who entered Georgia due to the ongoing war have been receiving financial assistance, mirroring the support given to IDPs from Georgia's Russian-occupied Abkhazia and Tskhinvali regions. Notably, the Georgian education system has enrolled over 2,300 children, Ukrainian children, most of whom are receiving general education in the Ukrainian language according to the standard Ukrainian curriculum. Additionally, recognizing that children are among the most vulnerable to the devastating effects of war, we will host Ukrainian children in our youth camps this summer. Specifically, the children of servicemen from the armed forces of Ukraine and the National Guard residing in Kharkov and Kiev will participate in these camps. Accompanied by consenting guardians, these children will spend time in our regions enjoying a safe and supportive environment. Dear colleagues, the Georgian and Ukrainian nations share not only similar experiences and strong bonds of friendship, but also common aspirations for European integration. We believe that the Ukrainian people will soon achieve peace, and together we will celebrate full membership in the European Union. Meanwhile, we will continue providing support within our available resources to aid Ukraine's recovery. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Prime Minister. I now give the floor to the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Azerbaijan, His Excellency Ceyhun Bayramov.
Excellencies, distinguished delegates, I join previous speakers by expressing gratitude to the organizers of this conference. From the very beginning, Azerbaijan has been standing for the soonest cessation of hostilities in Ukraine paving the way for the settlement through diplomatic means based on strict adherence to international law. Azerbaijan supports the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Ukraine. We share deep regret that the conflict continues to cause serious humanitarian sufferings. Azerbaijan has been among the first few countries providing humanitarian assistance to Ukraine. Our first humanitarian cargo reached Ukraine on 27 February 2022. Since then, we have provided humanitarian aid worth of $40 million to Ukraine on the bilateral basis. This includes over 3,000 tons of in-kind humanitarian assistance of such critically needed items as medicaments, foodstuff, electric generators, water pipes, water pumps, life jackets, inflatable boats. In the meantime, Azerbaijan continues the program of medical and social psychological rehabilitation for Ukrainian children affected by the conflict. Thus far, 154 Ukrainian children have benefited from this program. Since the last recovery conference in London, we have hosted more groups of Ukrainian children, and we will continue to do so in coordination with relevant Ukrainian authorities. Infrastructure recovery and reconstruction is another important dimension of our support to Ukraine. This is against the backdrop of large-scale post-conflict rehabilitation and reconstruction we have embarked on at the national level following the liberation of our territories from occupation. To this end, the reconstruction of a school building in the city of Irpin was finalized by Azerbaijan. Preparatory works continue with respect to reconstruction of 4 other social buildings in Irpin, such as cultural center, art center, sports center for children and youth, and a residential building. Azerbaijan itself has to deal with tremendous challenge stemming from massive contamination of its territories with landmines and other explosive remnants of war, largely on its own resources, and therefore consistently advocates for increased solidarity with mine-affected countries. In this context, of our support to humanitarian demining operations in Ukraine is of particular symbolic importance. Thus far, Azerbaijan has already donated 1 mine clearance equipment to Ukraine. Furthermore, Azerbaijan's national demining agency, ANAMA, also plans to provide training for Ukrainian demining specialists in Azerbaijan. To conclude, I would like to reiterate that Azerbaijan will continue its humanitarian support to Ukraine upon its request on the bilateral basis, fully in line with applicable international political legal framework. I thank you.
Thank you, Minister, for your support. The next speaker is the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Croatia, and I ask His Excellency Gordon Radman to take the floor. Please.
Dankeschön. So, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I am pleased to participate in today's conference to share Croatia's perspective on ensuring Ukraine's recovery is lasting and sustainable. Addressing all Ukraine's needs requires a joint international effort, and Croatia already has been playing an important role. Namely, Croatia has so far provided €277 million in aid, including €67 million in emergency, humanitarian and development assistance. This makes Croatia the second highest in the world in terms of humanitarian aid as a percentage of GDP. As a country that fought for its own freedom and independence, Croatia has unique experience in post-conflict transition and peaceful reintegration. Our assistance to Ukraine focuses on mine action, war veterans care, accountability and rehabilitation of civil war victims, especially children. In this light, humanitarian demining is essential for socio-economic development and the return of displaced people. Thus, Croatia has invested over €10 million in humanitarian demining in Ukraine, which will be an important agenda item on upcoming Dubrovnik Forum at the end of this month. More than 160 Ukrainian children from war-affected areas have stayed in Croatia, receiving valuable education about mine safety, and we plan this number to double over the next 6 months. In addition, we can be supporting Ukraine with comprehensive long-term veteran health care. Our government supports civil society organizations who are engaged in diverse social rehabilitation efforts of Ukrainian war veterans. On political level, Croatia has continuously supported Ukraine on its European Union path. We have shared our EU accession experience with Ukraine over the last 7 years and remain committed to contributing further. More than 1,600 Ukrainian civil servants attended our workshops aimed at building administrative capacities in our effort to reconstruct of vital social infrastructure. We renovated a kindergarten in Hostomel and donated 50 generators for hospitals and education facilities. In conclusion, we believe our brave Ukrainian friends are capable of rebuilding their country, but they need our strong support and concrete assistance based on Lugano principles. Croatia will continue to provide this support for as long as it takes. Thank you so much. Dankeschön.
Thank you so much, Minister, for your contribution. And I now give the floor to the Minister of Foreign Affairs from Switzerland, His Excellency Ignacio Cassis.
Thank you, Madam. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Let me first of all congratulate the co-organizers, Ukraine and Germany, for this third edition of the URC conference here in Berlin. I am particularly glad to continue the work we started together in Lugano, Switzerland 2 years ago in order to give brighter prospects to the people of Ukraine. I would like to briefly outline a few selected Swiss commitments. First, the private sector plays a key role in the reconstruction process. Switzerland is promoting sustainable framework conditions and ensuring that small and medium enterprises can function and remain competitive. In cooperation with the EBRD, we are supporting a new mechanism to protect private investments against war risks. Switzerland is also pleased to join the SME and Skills Alliances to be launched at this URC. Second outline. As the past 2 years have shown, digital transformation is another key component of Ukraine's resilience and recovery. When Switzerland began supporting Ukraine's digital transformation in 2015, we sensed that this would be a promising sector. But no one expected the sector to be so crucial. That's why I'm pleased to announce that Switzerland is not only going to continue supporting Ukraine's digital transformation, but also to expand it. We will provide an additional 60 million euros over the next 4 years for our e-governance for accountability and participation project to promote transparency, accountability and democratic participation through digitalization. Third, with the Lugano principles, Switzerland and Ukraine have linked Ukraine's recovery to its reform processes. In the same line, we will organize the second humanitarian demining conference in Lausanne next October. Switzerland is now participating in the IMF's Ukraine's Capacity Development Fund. This fund will support the implementation of governance and anti-corruption reforms in line with EU requirements. And that is of utmost importance given our long-term commitment to Ukraine that started in 1991 and within the prospect of an investment of at least 5 billion Swiss francs in the next years. And finally, Excellencies, at the request of President Zelensky, Switzerland will host the first high-level conference for peace in Ukraine on 15 and 16 June, that is, next weekend. A few months after the war began, we dared to talk about rebuilding. Today, we must have the courage to build peace. However different they may be, we need to combine our strengths, our ideas, and our worldviews. So let us climb to the top of a Swiss mountain to find common ground, build trust, and start building peace. I count on the high-level participation on every country of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Minister. The next speaker is from Japan, and I ask the Parliamentary Vice Minister for Foreign Affairs, Yoichi Fukasawa, to take the floor, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I will speak in Japanese, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I'd like to express my sincere respect for the courage and perseverance of the Ukrainian people who have been fighting to defend their freedom and independence, while the fierce fighting, as well as missile and unmanned drone attacks against various parts of Ukraine still continue for more than 2 years since Russia's invasion to Ukraine began. It is precisely this moment when the international community needs to work together to support Ukraine. Today's meeting is extremely important, and I sincerely welcome the holding of this conference with the attendance of the Ukrainian President Zelensky, German Chancellor Scholz, and dignitaries from all over the world, as well as various businesses. Japan will concentrate its efforts on the following 3 areas for the recovery and reconstruction of Ukraine. First is the support for the electricity sector, which is currently the most imminent, and countermeasures against landmines. While Russia continues to attack Ukraine's core infrastructure and the Ukrainian people are forced to live in power blackouts, Japan has been providing assistance in the power sector, including the provision of gas turbines and auto transformers. Japan will continue to focus on providing support in this particular area. In addition, as countermeasures against landmines are the basis for recovery and reconstruction, Japan will provide the mining equipment as well as the training in the use of made-in-Japan mine detection equipment that has already been provided up to now. We will continue to provide effective assistance regarding countermeasures against landmines by combining both human resource development and the provision of equipment. Second is public-private partnerships. In February this year, Prime Minister Kishida hosted the Japan-Ukraine Conference for Promotion of Economic Growth and Reconstruction in Tokyo, which was attended by Prime Minister Shmihal, as well as Ukrainian government and business officials. At the conference, 56 cooperation documents were presented under the idea that the public and private sectors would work together to support Ukraine's recovery and reconstruction. The unprecedented outcomes of this conference were highly appreciated by the Ukrainian side. Progress has been steadily made in following up on such outcomes of this February meeting. For example, 3 joint public-private missions have been sent to Ukraine to accelerate efforts to formulate individual projects. We will continue to strongly support cooperation between Japanese and Ukrainian businesses, including through the establishment of a JETRO Kyiv office at an early stage. Also in April, preliminary negotiations on a review of the bilateral investment treaty were launched between Japan and Ukraine. We will advance negotiations with a view to reaching an agreement in an early stage. Furthermore, we will promote public-private partnership projects through institutions such as JICA and UNIDO, and will strongly encourage such projects in Ukraine. In addition, yesterday, Japan-Ukraine Public-Private Roundtable was held here in Berlin. With the participation of Ukrainian government and business officials, we announced 23 new cooperation documents between Japanese and Ukrainian companies and others. Third is Women, Peace and Security, or WPS. Under the initiative of Foreign Minister Kamikawa, Japan is emphasizing the importance of including the WPS perspective in all phases of recovery and reconstruction. And this was also a major topic at the conference in Tokyo in February. We will continue to promote such WPS initiatives in cooperation with other countries. Through these initiatives, Japan will contribute to the reconstruction of Ukraine by the public and private sector all together. Last but not least, I'd like to express our determination to support Ukraine's reconstruction efforts while further strengthening cooperation with Ukraine, Germany, and the international community. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Minister, for your contribution. And I now ask the Deputy Foreign Minister of Armenia, His Excellency Vahan Kostanyan, to take the floor.
Thank you. Excellencies, dear colleagues, at the outset, let me acknowledge the efforts of Germany, for convening this important conference. I would like to highlight that this is the first time Armenia is participating in Ukraine Recovery Conference. The principles of Ukraine's recovery that were adopted in Lugano 2 years ago should be at the core of today's discussions. Reform-focused, transparent, democratic, and sustainable recovery process and are prerequisites to ensure the future of Ukrainian people. At the same time, this process will be fragmented and not effective enough without peace. Armenia and our people deeply understand the horror of the wars and violence. Recently, we have faced quite similar situation and we realize the importance of peace. We stand ready to engage with the parties to stop the unbearable suffering of innocent people, and peace is our political belief. We ourselves are generally engaged in peace talks to bring peace and stability to our region. And one of the main principles of normalization of relations between Armenia and Azerbaijan is mutual recognition of each other's territorial integrity based on Alma-Ata Declaration, a document according to which not only Armenia and Azerbaijan, but also 10 other former Soviet republics agreed that former administrative boundaries of Soviet republics are recognized as interstate borders. Dear colleagues, let me reiterate Armenia's determination to closely work with the partners aiming to restore the stability and peace in Europe. Taking the opportunity, I would like also to announce that Armenia's representative will participate in upcoming peace summit being convened in Switzerland. I thank you.
Thank you so much. And I now ask again for Spain to take the floor. Mrs. Ines Carpio, Director General for International Financing.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. Dear colleagues, today's reconstruction conference constitutes yet another sign of support for Ukraine from the international community. Since 2022, the start of Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine, Spain has remained steadfast in its defense of international law and unwavering in its support for Ukraine. We want to emphasize the importance of maintaining and increasing financial and military support for Ukraine while preserving European and transatlantic unity. Unity is indeed the guiding vector and key to the success of our support measures. Specifically, I want to commend the 2 European financial support measures that we are currently working on. First, the Ukraine plan within the Ukraine facility has been approved swiftly. Its reforms and investments will guide Ukraine towards a more prosperous future and facilitate its accession to the EU. Second, the use of windfall revenues derived from immobilized Russian assets. These should help Ukraine address some of its urgent reconstruction and military needs. Its use must be in line with the international legal framework. Additionally, Spain has committed 400 million euros to the reconstruction of Ukraine. First, at the Lugano conference in 2022, we announced that we would mobilize resources for the country's most urgent needs, reaching almost 250 million euros. 48 million euros to the World Bank's Peace Multi-Donor Trust Fund for the payment of basic services and maintenance of the administration of Ukraine, 100 million euros in guarantees for direct loans to Ukraine through the World Bank to contribute to the repair of sanitation facilities, 100 million euros in guarantees for the EBRD, 50 million for the EBRD Crisis Response Special Fund, and another 50 million euros in guarantees for projects associated with the sector of reconstruction of cities. In fact, today in Berlin, the EBRD has just signed a set of agreements with local authorities for reconstruction projects, including 2 with a guarantee by Spain. Second, in 2023, on his 3rd trip to Kiev, the Spanish president announced a 51 million euro support package aimed at strengthening resilience and promoting the recovery and reconstruction of Ukraine, in partnership with the World Bank's IFC, aimed at supporting private sector resilience and the country's vital economic infrastructure through the Ukrainian banking system. Third, we have also put in motion a €30 million guarantee line for credit operations and a guarantee agreement for up to €70 million for the EIB's new EU for Ukraine program, to be used for local infrastructure projects such as schools and hospitals, transport networks, water treatment facilities, digital capacity and cybersecurity, and to improve access to finance for Ukrainian entrepreneurs. This adds to humanitarian support measures. Spain has launched an unprecedented humanitarian package, allocating more than €90 million. In 2023, Ukraine became a priority humanitarian context for Spanish development cooperation. In the coming months, we will continue to support Ukraine on multiple fronts. During President Zelensky's recent visit to Spain, our two countries signed a bilateral agreement on security and defense. This agreement also encompasses humanitarian assistance, reconstruction, and the pursuit of a just and lasting peace grounded in international law. The Spanish Minister of Economy will be traveling to Kiev at the end of the month to follow up on this agreement, together with a number of Spanish companies that can provide their world-class expertise in key sectors for Ukraine's recovery and reconstruction. Once the war draws to a close, our focus will have to shift from economic resilience to comprehensive reconstruction and development, while continuing to ensure that humanitarian assistance continues to go hand in hand with other investments for as long as needed. Leveraging our expertise and comparative advantages, we are committed to playing a significant role in this endeavor. Ukraine can count on Spain's sincere and committed support on its path to freedom, prosperity, and full European integration. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for the Spanish support. And now I ask His Excellency Kostas Skrekas, Minister of Development from Greece, to take the floor. Please.
Thank you, Chair. I will deliver my statement in Greek. Οι δημοκρατικές χώρες στηρίζουν σταθερά την Ουκρανία, όχι μόνο γιατί μάχεται για τη δική της ανεξαρτησία και εδαφική ακεραιότητα, αλλά γιατί αγωνίζεται για τις κοινές αξίες και τα ιδεώδη όλου του ελεύθερου κόσμου. Η σημαντική αυτή διάσκεψη που διεξάγεται εδώ στο Βερολίνο σήμερα έρχεται την κατάλληλη στιγμή για να τονίσει ότι η ανασυγκρότηση της Ουκρανίας πρέπει να συμβεί με έναν τρόπο συγκροτημένο και αποτελεσματικό. Η Ελλάδα με τους εταίρους και τους συμμάχους της στηρίζουν σταθερά την κοινή προσπάθεια ανοικοδόμησης της Ουκρανίας σε κρίσιμους τομείς όπως στις μεταφορές, στις κατασκευές, στις υποδομές, στις ανανεώσιμες πηγές ενέργειας, στους τομείς της έρευνας και της καινοτομίας, καθώς και στο νοσοκομιακό και φαρμακευτικό τομέα. Πρέπει να πούμε βεβαίως ότι είναι κρίσιμη και η συμβολή της ελληνικής ναυτιλίας, καθώς και του ελληνόκτητου στόλου στην ανασυγκρότηση της Ουκρανίας, καθώς επίσης και η αξιοποίηση κρίσιμων υποδομών της χώρας μας στις μεταφορές αλλά και στην ενέργεια. Σας ευχαριστώ πολύ.
Thank you so much for the support. I now ask His Excellency Gilles Roth, Minister of Finance from Luxembourg, to take the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Dear colleagues, I would like to thank Chancellor Scholz and the German government for hosting us here today. We have joined forces to support Ukraine and will continue to do so, not only to win this war, but also to help Ukraine rebuild its country and relaunch its economy. Together with our international friends and partners, Europe has reacted quickly and with one voice. We have taken clear steps in multilateral fora to make sure Russia's aggression does not remain unanswered. Together, we have implemented wide-ranging sanctions, shifted our energy supplies, and taken in those fleeing the unprovoked war of aggression. Luxembourg fully supported those efforts from day one on. Luxembourg is a small country. Regardless, we want to do our part. Luxembourg has experienced the significance of international support in times of war. We remain forever grateful. I want to tell our Ukrainian friends, we understand and we want to help. For decades, Luxembourg has enjoyed stability and security provided by the European Union and NATO. For us, war was unthinkable for a long time. After 75 years of collective defense, Luxembourg remains fully committed to NATO. Last month, my government decided to accelerate the path to the 2% goal. In addition to strengthening our defenses in Europe, we have and will continue to support Ukraine financially. Together with our European friends, we have pledged €50 billion under the Ukraine facility. Together with our European friends, we have also contributed to multilateral efforts, including the IMF, the World Bank, or the European Investment Bank. We will continue to support those vital financial efforts. Looking forward, recovery and reconstruction will be an integral part of our commitment. This process is complex and has many dimensions. And also, after more than 2 years, the war of aggression is still waging. We need to start these efforts now. We need to raise the necessary funds, both public and private. We need a strong engagement of the private sector, both when it comes to mobilizing financing, but also when it comes to making use of the private sector's expertise. Let me conclude by reiterating, my government remains fully committed to supporting Ukraine and its people. Europe's freedom and peace is, 80 years after D-Day, being defended at the Ukrainian border. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Minister, for your words. And now the next speaker will be from Belgium, and Jan de Pau, Special Envoy Ukraine. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. Ladies and gentlemen, Excellencies, thank you very much. Today's conference is a strong show of solidarity with the people of Ukraine, and we are thankful to Germany for hosting this conference. We are here to discuss how we can join forces to build a bright future for Ukraine, a future of a strong, economically vibrant, European, and above all, peaceful Ukraine. Since the beginning of Russia's full-scale war of aggression, Belgium has provided critical support for sustaining and strengthening Ukraine's resilience, for the delivery and rehabilitation of basic services, humanitarian relief of war-affected communities, and demining, to the total of €2 billion so far. Among other recent support measures, we recently adopted a €9 million contribution to the UNDP Green Energy Recovery Project in Ukraine. This is one of the many ways in which we responded to Ukraine's urgent needs. The bilateral agreement on security cooperation signed between Belgium and Ukraine on the 28th of May is an agreement that also includes important clauses on long-term support. As a key element of our long-term support to Ukraine's recovery, a BE Relief Reconstruction Programme of €150 million will be implemented by the Belgian Development Agency Enable to enhance and support the long-term rebuilding and recovery of livelihoods and vital environments in the Kyiv and Chernihiv regions. Enable's 4-year program will focus on sustainable access to healthcare and education. Special attention will be given to the cross-cutting dimensions of energy efficiency and green energy, in line with the framework of the Build Back Better approach and gender inclusion included in the Ukraine plan. I am convinced that there is also exceptional potential for business engagement in Ukraine. Our expert credit agency Credendo has resumed coverage for export transactions with a view to providing companies with guidance to identify concrete avenues, partners and financing opportunities in Ukraine. Also, our development financing institution BIO will be investing €18 million in agri-processing, renewable energy and SME financing sectors in order to engage further with Ukraine's private sector and give support to the local economy. Reconstruction operators and investors need a level playing field, governance reforms and solid rule of law in order to step up their involvement. At a more micro level, companies and private investors need to identify partners and projects that are ready to be financed, and for this, Ukraine needs technical assistance and our committed support. The people of Ukraine can rely on Belgium in that sense. Let me conclude by affirming my belief that Ukraine is building a solid path towards a sustainable and democratic future, and in this, it will always be able to count on the support of Belgium. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the support from Belgium. And I now ask His Excellency Viktoras Valanis from Latvia, Minister for Economics, to take the floor. Please.
Hello, I'm here.
Okay.
Support for Ukraine remains Latvian priority, and Latvia is covering area range from urgent reconstruction to fostering Ukraine's Euro integration. By the end of 2024, Latvia overall support to Ukraine is planned at least 800 million euros, or an average annual support of around 1% of our GDP, which combines society and government support. There is a really big understanding about how much this money is needed to Ukrainian people. This money is needed for Latvian people as well, but all our society is supporting Ukraine, and we know that it is our priority to do this. Since the beginning of the full-scale war, Latvia has welcomed more than over 55,000 Ukrainian refugees, and we are welcoming them as they are coming to their home when they are in Latvia. Latvia was among the first countries which were involved in the reconstruction process of Ukraine already in 2022. Government of Latvia decided to focus its attention to reconstruction of Chernihiv region, and government of Latvia approved to allocate 5 million euros for reconstruction of Chernihiv region annually until 2026. Focus on reconstruction of social infrastructure objects, education and health facilities, housing, psychological support for women, digitalization and the EU integration. Projects are developed in close coordination with the Ukrainian side. Being aware of the broad and wide range psychological and impacts of Russia's brutal war of aggression, Latvia has engaged in psychological support efforts in Ukraine. In 2022, Latvia supported the opening support center in Ivanko, France for women who have suffered from sexual abuse from Russian military personnel. Two more support centers were opened in Chernihiv in 2023. This year, psychological support projects are continuing. In 2023, we supported of the government of Latvia projects for providing housing for Ukrainian people continued. Overall, Latvia has provided 23 houses for Ukrainian families in Chernihiv region. Also in 2023, Latvia, in cooperation with United Nations Development Programme in Ukraine, started project with aim to reconstruction 2 educational and 2 health facilities in Chernihiv. It's planned that overall 6 Latvia has been also actively supporting Ukraine regarding in the most urgent needs in the field of energy by providing material technical support in the form of donations of network equipment, raw materials and vehicles. Russia has carried out frequent and widespread attacks on Ukraine power infrastructure since the beginning of the war. The other countries to enhance their contributions to Ukraine energy sector. In the field of development cooperation, Ukraine is our top priority, and development cooperation projects are being implemented in Ukraine with the aim of support, health and rehabilitation system, resilience of small and medium enterprises, good governance and EU integration, women and human rights, and many, many more. Reconstruction efforts are a crucial element in the overall scene of supporting Ukraine and its fight for winning the war. Currently, reconstruction is mostly based on the most urgent needs of Ukrainian people. However, we must remind the current support of the fast reconstruction will set the pace for the future reconstruction process. Therefore, it is important not to separate urgent and long-term post-war reconstructions. Ukrainian society has proved to be determined and resilient on the rest of the civilized world to do now to continue to stand with Ukraine, to provide it with all possible means to finish the war with victory as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister, for the support from Latvia. And I now ask the Minister for Foreign Affairs from Romania, Her Excellency Luminata Odubescu, to take the floor. Please.
Your Excellencies, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great honor to address you today on behalf of Romania during this edition of Ukraine Recovery Conference. I would like to express my appreciation to our hosts, Ukraine and Germany, for organizing such an insightful event. Despite the continuous brutal Russian attacks against Ukraine and the Ukrainian people, we have remained firm and committed in our solidarity and unity with Ukraine. Ladies and gentlemen, since the early days of the war, Romania has been part of the international effort to support Ukraine in all possible and meaningful ways. Connectivity, in particular designing and developing stronger physical links between Ukraine and neighboring EU member states, has always been on top of our priorities. This is critical for the resilience of the Ukrainian state and economy, while also bringing Ukraine closer to the European single market. Working intensively with our Ukrainian partners, we can already report significant results. We have agreed on a master plan for road interconnectivity, and we are now working on finalizing similar plans for railroad and naval transport. Work is underway on a new bridge over the Tisa River, where a new border crossing point will be set up. As a new highway connected Bucharest with the border with Ukraine is under construction. 10 days ago, the biggest railway transshipment terminal in Europe was inaugurated in northeast of Romania at the Romanian-Ukrainian border with a capacity of 3 million tons per year. Most importantly, this project was the result of a Romanian private investment. With the support of our international partners, for which we are grateful, Romania, Ukraine, and the Republic of Moldova are closely coordinated to ensure the smooth and sustainable functioning of EU solidarity lanes, especially the Danube corridor. Progress is evident in all areas, but let me give just 2 examples. 24 hours per 7 days navigation is now possible on Sulina Channel, making possible the transit of 650 ships per month. Moreover, Constanța is now the biggest transport hub for Ukraine in the region. Esteemed guests, Romania remains committed at the highest level to increase its support for Ukraine. We are not working just for the immediate needs. We are investing for medium and long term. This is why we call for a broader regional perspective when we discuss Ukraine's reconstruction and its European integration. The Republic of Moldova, the second most affected country by the ongoing Russian war, should be taken into consideration when designing projects addressed to Ukraine, particularly when it comes to connectivity. First, Ukraine and Republic of Moldova, their economies and societies are directly affected by Russia's war of aggression. Second, both countries are advancing towards European integration and have to carry out similar and wide-ranging reform. Third, Ukraine and Republic of Moldova need to enhance their energy, digital and transportation interconnectivity with the European Union. This is part of the integration into the EU single market. Fourth, because geography, economic logic, and practicality require that. We look forward for the official opening of the EU accession negotiations, Ukraine and Republic of Moldova, in 2 weeks. Furthermore, we need to make sure that European integration and Ukraine's reconstruction are mutually reinforcing dynamics. Ladies and gentlemen, Ukraine keeps fighting bravely for its independence, for its sovereignty, and for its European future. Let me once more reconfirm that Romania remains committed to stand by Ukraine for as long as it takes to win this war and further on during the reconstruction process and European integration. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. And it gives me great pleasure to call on the Prime Minister of the Republic of Estonia, Her Excellency Kaja Kallas. Please.
Thank you, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. As we meet here in Berlin, less than 800 kilometers away, Russia is continuing its aggression against the sovereign European nation for the third year running. For Ukrainians, it is an existential fight. For them, there is no plan B. In fact, there should be no plan B for the entire democratic world either. We do not have the option to get tired. It is a losing game to build your strategy upon pessimism. Instead, we must continue to set Ukraine's victory as the goal and believe in it. For that, we must keep up international assistance to Ukraine, not only in larger volumes, but also for the long term. Ukraine must be able to resist the aggressor both by fighting on the battlefield and by keeping its state and economy running. As we know, Ukraine's needs for reconstruction are enormous, and Ukraine should not and cannot be alone. Our message has been clear. Ultimately, Russia has to pay for the damages it has caused. That is not only moral, but also the legal imperative. Estonian Parliament recently passed a law allowing the use of Russian frozen assets for Ukraine. Hopefully, it inspires more to follow. Estonia has committed in total of 1.2 billion euros of assistance to Ukraine from the start of the war until 2027. This includes 316 million for civilian assistance and 900 million for military assistance. Our experience shows that reconstruction is possible already during the war. We were the first to choose a region, the Zhytomyr Oblast, for reconstruction efforts already in 2022. We have not only invested in brick and mortar, but have worked with our Ukrainian partners on future-oriented and sustainable solutions in the line with European standards. To bring just one example, we are building a modern foster family homes and modernizing a social system at the same time. The first such family home was handed over recently. Coordination with international partners is key for successful recovery. With other donors, Estonia has been driving international cybersecurity support to Ukraine through Tallinn mechanism and IT coalition platforms. With our international partners, we are also looking into ways to support Ukraine in the maritime sector. In all of this, involving the private sector and civil society has been crucial. We all have a lot to learn from Ukraine's resilience and courage. Ukrainians have proved the ability to implement reforms fast and efficiently. This led to the EU's historical decision to open accession negotiation. This determination will help Ukraine achieve its goals, winning the war and rebuilding its country, becoming the member of the European Union, but also becoming the member of NATO. It is the duty of all of us to support Ukrainians on this path. I'm glad that today's conference will deliver tangible outcomes and investments for Ukraine. And I'm pleased to announce that Estonia has committed to join the coalitions and initiatives proposed by this conference. Today, we all make a tangible commitment to Ukraine's victory. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister. Your presence here is very much appreciated. I have the honor to call on the Kingdom of Sweden, His Excellency Johan Forsell, Minister for Development, Cooperation and International Trade.
Dear colleagues, dear friends, another year has passed since we last met, and Russia is still waging its brutal and unlawful war against Ukraine, and the need, of course, for international support remains as high as ever. So supporting Ukraine remains my government's defining foreign policy priority. Since Russia's full-scale invasion, Sweden has contributed with financial and humanitarian support, 16 military support packages, and we have also adopted our largest development cooperation strategy ever to help Ukraine to EU membership. In response to Russia's increased attacks on Ukraine's energy infrastructure, we have presented a €56 million energy support package to support schools, hospitals and transport, but also industries and the war effort. In keeping with one of the themes for this conference, the human dimension, we have also presented a support package to UNICEF and Save the Children with almost €12 million. Almost 20,000 Ukrainian children have been deported or forcibly displaced by Russia, and we will continue to support ways of returning them to their families and also to hold Russia accountable. On another conference theme, the local and regional dimension, our development cooperation agency, SIDA, will launch support to decentralization and waste management to a combined value of €35 million. This makes our combined pledge today more than €100 million. We are also, of course, continuing to support Ukraine militarily. And our aim is very clear, to help Ukraine win the war, win the peace, and also restore Ukraine's territorial integrity. We recently announced a framework for military support to Ukraine, totaling €6.6 billion over 3 years. This means that Sweden's military and civilian support to Ukraine amounts to more than €9 billion in total. We are proud over this substantial contribution, because helping Ukraine is helping to defend democracy and freedom on our continent, and we will continue to do so. Just a couple of days ago, 450 million Europeans voted on their future in the European elections. In the same way, we will stand side by side with all Ukrainians in their pursuit of defining their own future, not the future defined by Russia. We are also assisting the private sector. Finding synergies between aid and trade is a key priority of my government. Therefore, we have new export credit guarantees for Ukraine, and we have also opened a trade office in Kiev. Sweden will also continue to increase the pressure on Russia. We encourage the legal proceedings in the International Court of Justice and the International Criminal Court to hold Russia and its leaders accountable for war crimes and the crime of aggression. Sweden will never accept that aggressive and authoritarian states violate the freedom and independence of democratic countries. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister, and it gives me great pleasure to announce the contribution from the Republic of Lithuania. And the floor has Her Excellency Ingrida Simonti, Prime Minister. Please, Prime Minister.
Thank you. First, let me express my gratitude to our co-hosts, Germany and Ukraine. As Russia continues its full-scale war, we must be very clear about our goal. Ukraine must win, and Russia must lose and face international justice. We must support Ukraine, whatever the victory takes. The task is twofold. First, we must stop drawing self-inflicted red lines and give Ukraine the arms it needs and when Ukraine needs them. Second, we must help Ukraine function and invest in Ukraine's recovery. We must help Ukraine rebuild better as a future member of EU and NATO. Since the beginning of Russia's brutal full-scale invasion, Lithuania's government-to-government aid to Ukraine has reached 2% of Lithuania's GDP. Our military support makes up more than half of this amount, and we will seek to ensure that it reaches at least 0.25% of our GDP annually. I encourage all our partners to commit to the same target. I wholeheartedly commend and support much-needed leadership initiatives in the field of defense support. Lithuania has allocated €50 million to Czech-led ammunition initiative and to the air defense initiative led by Germany. Support to Ukraine's energy sector is critical now, as Russia is targeting and destroying Ukraine's energy infrastructure more systematically and brutally than ever before. Lithuania has contributed equipment and financing of over €13 million, and our support will continue. We must also help Ukraine to develop a functioning system of psychological and medical rehabilitation and reintegration of Ukrainian defenders. Lithuania has launched a €15 million worth program to develop infrastructure and services of free rehabilitation centers in Ukraine. Another priority is the education sector. We have contributed to reconstruction of free schools and kindergartens in Kiev region, and today Lithuania is officially committing to the reconstruction of another school in the village of Zeleny Hai in Mykolaiv region. Together with EU, we are also building dual-usage bomb shelters for schools across Ukraine. Finally, it is key that Ukrainian refugees return to Ukraine and take active part in recovery of the country. Today, together with the European Commission and our Ukrainian partners, we are launching a pilot program, Create Ukraine. It will facilitate the return of young Ukrainians to work in Ukraine. All the recovery initiatives I've mentioned can be expanded or multiplied, so I invite all our partners and friends to join these efforts. It is our duty to help Ukraine to rebuild and recover, but the most adequate and just way to finance the effort is to seize and use all Russia's frozen assets and immobilized assets under our sanctions. Decision to use net profits is a good first step, but we cannot stop here. Thank you.
Thank you very much.